8 years ago, I decided to be a game developer. I searched how to make games with zero coding experience and found this free site called Scratch. My first games were top-down adventures. I can't find them on Scratch, but I remember that they were very unfair. After about a year, I got frustrated by Scratch limitations and decided to learn a proper game engine. The most used one was Unity. So I downloaded it, I created a project, and I tried to make a game by copying code and assets online, hoping that no error message would pop up. Finally, in 2018 I decided to learn how to code. I watched tutorials for weeks until I was able to make very simple stuff. At one point I decided to take a more structured approach, so I bought a cheap Unity course on Udemy. While I was following the course I made some projects. The first one is Number Wizard, a game where you pick a number and the computer tries to guess it in a limited amount of tries. If the computer guesses wrong, you have to select if your number is lower or higher than the guess. Then I made Text 101, which is just a simple text-based interactive story. After that, I made a Breakout clone named Block Breaker. This was the first game I made with physics, and I think it turned out great. Then I made a Space Invaders clone called Laser Defender. This was very fun, and it taught me quite a lot. Then there was Glitch Garden. This was supposed to be a simple Plants vs Zombie clone, but it took me ages to make. Every feature I added, there were like 4 new bugs. At one point I was about to abandon the project, but in the end I was able to finish it, and I'm glad that I stuck with it since I learned how to make more complex code. A month later, I made some minor projects that I never finished. There was a bowling game and an ugly FPS. Finally, I made a 2D platform game called Tilevania. This was definitely a milestone in my game dev journey since it taught me a lot. For example, I learned about tile sets, Cinemachine and good player movement. After I completely finished the Udemy course, I should have definitely started making games on my own. But my confidence was very low and I thought that by just starting making games I would have never learned some important concepts about Unity and game dev. So I watched many tutorials and I also completed a 3D Unity course. I'd say it was not a complete waste of time, since I made some interesting projects like an ugly rails shooter called Argon Assault and a tower defense game called Realm Rush. Finally, in 2019 I decided to make and publish a game without following any course or tutorial series. So I took some code I wrote for my previous project Tilevania and I tried to make a platform game for mobile called Shy Miner. The main problem was that my game art is terrible, so I was helped by 2 of my friends to make the character animations and then I tried my best to make the other sprites on my own. The results were questionable. After adding many mechanics such as raising lava, rolling, enemies, a pickaxe you can throw, and falling platforms, I decided to publish my game on the Play Store. It was not that successful, but I was very happy that I managed to completely finish and publish a game. After that, I made Silent Cube, a top-down shooter using simple geometric shapes. While doing it, I learned how to make simple AI and I made a weapon system. After a month or so I lost motivation and I stopped working on the project. I lost my sanity trying to make a multiplayer shooter and I discovered 2 things. Making multiplayer games is very hard, and second is that I love making FPS games. So, after I promised to never try making a multiplayer game again, I called 2 of my friends and we tried to make a single-player fast-paced FPS called G-Combatant. The player can use a pistol and a sword that can deflect bullets. There are many enemies such as Pistol Guy, Shotgun Guy, Sniper Guy and more. With this project I learned how to make a polished game, which is fun to play even in a test scene. Sadly, after months of work, we decided to abandon the project. It was supposed to be a very simple linear shooter, but it got out of hands pretty quickly the more features we added. The code became a mess and we needed to remake all the models because their geometry was terrible. We estimated that it would have took us years to finish the project, so we just learned the lesson and moved on. At this point I decided to learn how to make my own 3D models, so I watched some Blender videos and honestly it was way easier than I thought. After that I learned the basics of 3D shaders so that I can create some cool effects. With my newfound knowledge I made my most recent project, a simple FPS game where you have to defend a core from tanks. It ended up being a very fun game and I am extremely proud of myself for finishing it. Looking back at my game dev career, I was able to make many projects, even though I ended up only publishing 1 online. Now I can code, make sprites, 3D models, sound, particles, shaders, and, most of all, I have a vague idea of how to make fun games. For all the people who want to start developing games, I'll give you the advice I wished someone told me at the start of my journey. Don't waste time on courses and tutorials, but just learn a little about the game engine and then make lots and lots of very small projects to gain experience.